Okay, so the first thing that I do is to take the screw-on part of the PL259 and put it onto the coax flange first. Next thing I do is take the heat shrink and also place that onto the coax, slide them up the coax out of the way for later on. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to trim off some of the outer sheath here, and all I do is place up the PL259 next to it, okay, as a guide, and then all you're going to do is strip off this much coax from here to there. That's all you need to strip off the outer sheath, ready to fold back the braid. Okay, once you've bared back the sheath, or you've cut back the sheath, you can see there that I've trimmed back approximately that much. Okay, what you're going to do is flare it open, much like you would if you were doing a bazooka antenna. Flare it open, and you're going to push it from here across to here, and it's usually quite a simple method of just pushing it back like that, and a lot of people struggle with that when they make the bazooka, but there we go. So that's now ready. Now when it comes time to putting this piece on, what I like to do is leave a little gap between the end of here and the back flange in there. So all I'm going to do is offer it up again, leave a little bit of a space, put my finger on, okay, and then I'll take the knife and I'll just make a little score like that, okay, and then that will just break the plastic. Turn it over, little score on the back, nothing serious because you'll cut through it otherwise, and then it's free. Now you can pull that off usually with your fingers, but I'm just going to use these side cutters just to pop it off. So there we go. So we've bin that, you don't need that, we've bin that over there, wind up. There we go, okay, and now you're ready to put your PL259 on. So slide that in through the hole, okay, and then you're just going to wind it on. And this is the method that I do all my connectors, be it RG-58 or RG-213 is a little bit more difficult. You're just going to screw it all the way up until it's tight and it won't go any further, and that's it there. Okay, now what some people like to do is have the braid come through there. You can see the inner dielectric there. What a lot of people like to do is have the braid come up through there, and they actually fill the holes with solder. There's one on that side and there's one on that side. Okay, I don't like to do that. I find it puts a huge amount of heat into the connector, and you can damage the dielectric, and I just don't like to do it. And you can see there's a little bit of the cables come through there. Don't worry about that, we'll sort that out later, but that's essentially the connector on. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to apply the solder to the center pin, and all I like to do is rest the tip of the soldering iron in the hole there, so it's touching the connector and the center portion of the coax, and then just feed in the solder, and it will just run, and I usually just keep feeding it until it overflows. Like that. Okay, what I do next is, once I've fettled slightly, because I'm usually overzealous with the solder, I usually fettle the end slightly with a small needle file just to smooth it out, make sure it's going to go into the connector. And I take a connector and I just double check it's going to go in nicely. Perfect. So the next job to do is to retest for shorts. Okay, so it's the same process. You're going to check that the center pin there is not having any continuity with the outer, which it's not with the braid, but it is with itself. Okay, so there's no continuity there at all, so that's good. Right, so the next job is to apply a small piece of tape to tidy up this braid and just protect the heat shrink from any possible sharp edges. So you only need a small piece. Keep it nice and tight. There, nice and tight, nice and tidy. And it just stops the heat shrink potentially getting damaged by the braid. Next, slide up the heat shrink that you placed on there earlier right up to the back of the connector, so it's pushed up against it, and then using a heat gun we're just going to seal the
Thank you so much for this informative guide, Jason. And for those of you that want to see the original video, the credits are in the credits, so please visit his channel. Anyway, I hope this is very informative. For those of you that are stuck, have no idea of how to fit a screw-on PL259 plug onto an RG-58 coax.